On this episode of Gun Talk Hunt, I'm talking predator control. I recently took a trip to go hunt some predators on my property, and we had some good luck, we had some bad luck, and you're going to hear it all right here. And if you really want to get involved, head over to watch our video on social media because you're going to see some photos and videos from the trip. Welcome in, Gun Talk Hunt fans. I'm your host, KJ, and I'm all by my lonesome today, and that's just fine with me because we're talking about predators today, the four-legged kind. That's what we're talking about today, and we're talking about predator control, why it's important, and a couple of lessons that I've learned over the past month that make me appreciate hunting out west a little bit more. But before I dive into that, Gun Talk Hunt is brought to you by Lockdown. Secure your lifestyle. Silencer Central, silence delivered. Savage Arms, Timney Triggers, the world's finest triggers, and Brownells, serious about firearms since 1939. So I put on a little hunt for me and a buddy, Matt Rice. He's been on the show before. Actually, he was on the show back in, I think it was back in January. He was on the show. And we planned to get together and take a little hunt. We were wanting to go push some quail around and hunt for some coyotes. Well, bobcat season was gone, and Matt and I are sitting there talking about it, and we're like, well, you know, I've got a lot of property out in western Oklahoma, so let's just meet out there. We're going to go through predator control on my property because every year, undoubtedly, I passed up 5 coyotes this year. And why did I do that? Because it should be automatic. You see a coyote, you shoot a coyote. But when you're deer hunting, you really kind of want to like use those rounds and that racket for deer hunting purposes. And on this particular property, I would say you're looking at a little over 2,000 acres. And the numbers of deer have dwindled while the predators have increased. So we were just going to do a little hunt out there. And it didn't quite end up how we thought it would. We got out there. We had planned for the week before. Then we were like, all right, Ryan's going to join us. Ryan Gresham of Gun Talk was going to join us. And then he couldn't make it. So we were kind of locked into the days that we had kind of shifted around. Not blaming you, Ryan, but you're the reason why our hunt went south, I think. But the weather warmed up, and I really kind of want to focus a little bit of this talk on what do you do when the weather warms up and coyotes aren't showing themselves? What do your sets need to look like? And especially on warm days with light winds and warm days with high winds, what do you do? What does your move need to look like? What does your calling setup need to look like? And I'm going to jump into that. But predator control for you guys, I know there's some guys out there that just don't do a lot of it. It will help enhance your property. Now, there's going to always be predators around. If there's wild game to be had, there's going to be predators. It's just a simple fact of life, and we're getting into that breeding season right now. And coyotes, they're on the move, cooler weather up north. Time to hunt coyotes, man. That's just what you think about. But so I was hunting. I guess I should tell you what I was hunting with. I typically prefer either a 204 or 22-250. 22-250 is by far my favorite gun to use. And honestly, I've shot a lot of whitetails with a 22-250. And state variations, like make sure you check your state regulations because, it might not be a caliber that you can use for deer. But I can place that round wherever I want, and it doesn't damage the pelt on the coyotes, which is, you want to utilize that animal to the best of its ability, especially if the hide is awesome. But predator control, I would say, I saw a statistic the other day, and it kind of alarmed me. For every one coyote, you have to think about them taking out up to 12 fawns a year. So just think about that. So to feed their litter, they need food. And so they're going to access the easiest thing. And when deer start dropping fawns, you're almost behind. You're almost too late for your deer herd. And I'll share a real quick trapping story that I heard from the guys at FTW Ranch. And I'm not sure if this was on this ranch that the trapper did this, or is it on a neighboring ranch or something. But they bring trappers in a lot of those big Texas ranches that are growing wildlife. They're growing their numbers. They're conserving wildlife. They bring trappers in. They bring specialists in. But this trapper goes around, and he does it different both ways. So on bobcats, if he's specifically targeting bobcats, what he does is he hangs like a compact disc in a tree. So he'll put his snare underneath the compact disc, and it's almost like that bobcat sits across the canyon over there and goes, well, I wonder what's that shining in the tree? I better go check it out. It's in my territory. I better go look at it. And he gets up there and he's sitting there staring at it. And he's sitting there looking at it and goes, I might want to play with that. And curiosity killed the cat. That's just how that goes. But coyotes, he had the wildest scent attractant that I've ever heard of using to attract scent. So what they do is, so he digs a hole. He has a tool that'll dig a hole down, and he'll put a motion activated dispenser, and there's like cyanide dispenser in it. So the coyote goes up, sticks his nose in that hole, motion sensor goes off, a little spritz of cyanide, and that coyote's going to die, within 50 to 100 yards. That's a pretty effective way. But I had to ask him. I was sitting there, and you guys are probably thinking the same thing. Well, hold on a second. How do you get a coyote to stick his nose in a hole? And that's just the question that I posed for him. And he goes, you won't believe it. And I go, well, try me. I've heard a lot of wild stuff. He goes, Chanel number 5. And I sit there and I kind of scratch my head, and I'm like, well, one, that's an expensive coyote attractant. But two, how in the heck did this guy figure out that coyotes are attracted to Chanel number 5? Like that, it's just a wild, like, how did he find this out? Anyway, maybe he's attracted to it, and that's just like, he's like, well, if I like it, maybe a coyote will like it. But anyway, that's how they kind of do stuff, and that's how they control populations on these big game farms. And there's no reason why you couldn't treat your properties exactly like those big game farms, because the more you manage your predator control, the more likelihood of you having more deer on your property or in the surrounding areas. But yeah, so I'm gonna step away real quick. But on the back side of this break, I'm going to let you know how the hunt went down and why it wasn't as good as I expected. But Savage Arms, Backcountry Extreme Series rifles at savagearms.com/backcountry. So the big thing right now is lightweight hunting rifles. Guys are they're getting back fit. They're getting like energized to get back out in the woods, and they're going backcountry. And if you're going backcountry, you need to lighten up your pack. I was carrying a 50-pound pack, and the last thing I wanted to do was carry in another 12 pounds worth of rifle. So there are 6 premium grade rifles, purpose built for specific applications: the Timberline, Ultralight, High Country, Ridge Warrior, Bear Hunter, and Impulse Big Game. It's available in a variety of cartridges and configurations, but having a lightweight rifle like the Backcountry Extreme Series from Savage Arms is very important. Find out more at savagearms.com. And lockdown, secure walls. I see this going. So secure walls it's an organizational tool to help you get all your stuff in order. All your products are in where they need to be. All your lubes are where they need to be. All your jags, your cleaning jags, all your cleaning supplies are where they need to be. But I see this going right above my reloading bench. to actually keep all my reloading stuff separate. It's just a better way to organize my life, and actually blends in my, gun life with my home life, because I enjoy that being organized. And that's what lockdown does for us. But pair it with a vault door, and then all of a sudden, man, that gives me an idea. I could turn my closet, instead of housing clothes, I could house guns. I could have a vault door. I could strip all the shelves and everything, put up a bunch of secure walls, and all of a sudden I got myself a safe. Now, enter code GUNTALK10 at checkout for 10% off your entire cart. So if you get all that, you get a lot of money off. So go to lockdown.com to learn more. And I've got big news, giant news for everybody out there listening who has kept up with my saga. It took me 1 year and 4 days to finally take hold of my Silencer Central Banish 30, but I received it in the mail this week, right to my door. And that's what Silencer Central does. And now you don't have to wait a year and 4 days. Now it's all done through e-forms. So you can walk through the e-forms process that the ATF has finally released, and it's done easy by Silencer Central because they can ship it to your door. So you do your fingerprints, you send in your image, then you have to go to the ATF, you have to get your PIN number, and then you fill out the required paperwork, and then you're done. You're done waiting. I have heard reports that there have been a couple cases where guys have received their suppressors or silencers, whatever you want to call them, 24 days. Okay. Now, Silencer Central is not, I repeat, they are not saying that you are going to get that suppressor in 24 days. The ATF says it's going to take roughly 90 days. So just count on 90 days. And if it shows up earlier, there's a bonus. So find out more at silencercentral.com. Okay. We're talking about coyotes and predator control. And we go out there, it's hot. We know it's going to be hot. So we have to change our strategy. Our strategy start out early in the morning, get to our spots. But before we do that, what I've done is we know where coyotes are located, because the night before we go out, now it is important to say that we were hunting in Oklahoma, and you cannot hunt predators at night. So I called the game warden before I went out there, and I said, hey, I just want to clarify something. I cannot hunt predators at night, but can I locate them? And he's like, absolutely. Like that's not a problem. As long as you're not hunting them, you can locate them. So what I would do is I would take a ATN thermal monocular out and my Fox Pro call. I think it's like maybe number 42 or 37, something like that. Though I don't know why those numbers are sticking out to me. But those calls are the coyote locator call. That's the one I want to be playing. So I'll pull into my spot, my first spot, and I try to make sure the wind's still in my favor. I'm always thinking about wind when I'm coyote hunting. And I'm going to just pull off the side of the road. I'm going to stop. I'm going to let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes, just hanging out, just open the door, get out, hang out by the truck, let it die down a little bit. Then I'm going to fire up the coyote locator call. And if I can get something to answer me back, I know there's coyotes in the area. So I know there's a greater opportunity of success in that spot. So once I do that, I get back in the truck. I let it die down a little bit. I will look at my thermal monocular to see if I see any coyotes. And that's also a phenomenal, locator tool that you could use as a thermal monocular, just so you know, like they're there. Like they're there. We got it. But I'll get on my Onyx map and I'll look at the terrain features and where to start out. And I don't even start out, like I'll make sure I'm out of sight of the truck, because I've had instances where, coyotes will not come out. They'll see a flash of a truck on the ridgeline behind you. And it's an instant sign that, hey, something's not right here, and they will boogie on out of town. But what I want to really try to do is I want to start calling, and this is kind of going off early morning hours. It's warm. So when I'm talking warm in this time of the frame, We are sitting there roughly right around like 40 degrees, and that for me is pretty warm when it comes to coyote hunting. Light winds. I'm starting soft. I'm sorry. I'm starting off soft calls like a vole squeak or something like that, just to see if there's something real close by. The first few sets, nothing. We had zero luck. Like it was tough. And our sets weren't. We would do it all by wind, and the wind was swirling. So I think that had a little something to do with it, but we wouldn't move all that far because we weren't calling that loud. So we would move probably quarter to a half mile in between each move. And we were calling canyons and little breaks on this property. We weren't calling a lot of open fields. I don't do a lot of open field calling. I'd rather call breaks where I know they're going to hunker down, especially since the wind in the afternoon started kicking up. And that leads us to, the first coyote we called in, it was, I looked over at Matt and I said, I know there's probably coyotes here. The wind is iffy. Like right now it's okay. But when you get into a spot, man, check the wind. Just make sure. Just feel it on the back of your. If it's on the back of your neck, man, it's just not good. So we got in this spot, and because I looked over at Matt and I said, "Hey, let's go try calling at the spot where I missed one." And he instantly knows. He knows exactly where the spot we're talking about, because all I had to do was say that. And lo and behold, we get there. We start getting set up, and I'm like, man, I really want to set up on this corner, but the wind's not really right. So let's shift down about 50 yards and we'll sit up on the edge of the pond over there. And then how this goes is it's a dried out pond. And so we kind of sit on the pond dam and we are looking to the north. Well, the wind is kind of out of the southwest right now, which is not good. Like if a coyote comes in, I'm like, oh, hey, I'll sit on this side, watch our downwind side, and then you sit on the other side. Well, he goes out and he puts the call out. I would say he's probably 60 yards. He puts the call out. He comes back, he sits down, and he's sitting there and he's trying, and the call's just not working. So he has to go down. He has to fiddle with it in some way. Well, so he comes back and he sits down, and I'm going to pause right here and I'm going to take a real quick break because this story gets pretty funny. It gets pretty wild. But so we're brought to you by Brownells. Their new 1:6 by 24 match precision optic with illuminated donut reticle. I didn't stutter. I didn't misread it. It's a donut reticle, provides an uncluttered reticle for rapid target acquisition, and it really does work. It really is actually a neat idea for being able to pick up a target within a donut size, because most targets that we are shooting at are circular. A lot of them are, so you go out on the range or you go out, further distances, and the targets are largely, they're pretty round. So picking up those targets is really easy. The MPOs, which is the match precision optic reticle, allows your eye to naturally place the target into the center. So it's got Japanese glass on it too, and it's worth the price. I'm telling you, they are nice. I think you should give them a look at brownells.com. And Timney Triggers. So they've got a new alpha competition trigger for the Smith & Wesson M&P trigger. It's compatible with M&P Gen 1 and M2.0. It's got a 3-pound pull weight. These are great. And there is a video out there. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Jerry Michlik helped design this. Like, he is a key contributor in the design of this trigger. So if that dude is designing a trigger, I'm in. Like, I'm in that, because he can pull a trigger faster than anything I've ever seen. And he doesn't need a precision trigger or anything like that to go fast, but he designed one so he could go faster. So trust the guys at Timney Triggers and trust Jerry Michalik because the dude is good. But and as always, like every other Timney trigger I've ever owned, it's easy to install and you don't need to be a gunsmith. Find out more at timneytriggers.com. So I look over at Matt and and this is how it always goes when you're coyote hunting. They come in exactly where you don't think they're going to come in. And they are either one really delayed or they're really fast. And Matt got the call set up, had to go fiddle with it, came back, sat down. He probably had that call on maybe a 4, a volume level 4. And it was like a squealing rabbit. And all I hear is, oh, there he is. And I'm like, you got to be. This call had not been on for 30 seconds. And this coyote was on top of us. Coyote was 70 yards away, closing in on the call as fast as it could. And I, of course, look over to my left, and I see this coyote kind of bounding over the through the CRP grass and down almost into this pond. And I'm like, Matt, shoot. And all of a sudden I hear click and then a cuss word. And then he racks the gun as fast as he can, puts another one in there. And then I see the coyote, and you're probably wondering, well, KJ, why aren't you shooting yet? Well, because I had a tree right in front of me. I was watching the backside. I was doing my job, and comes in on Matt's side. So I missed. I didn't get to shoot, but I hear the gun go off, and then I hear another curse word. And so he's not Matt's not having the best luck right now. But all that to be said is you've got to be ready. You got to make sure your equipment's ready. He just had a light strike. But the coyote had been laying up right over the backside of this pond. The coyote was laid up. So because it was in the afternoon, the wind was picking up. But I was yelling at Matt, I was like, shoot him. Because I knew once that coyote hit near that call, he's going to pick that wind up. But you never know. You just never know when you never know how close they're going to be. Because the next coyote we came, he was right on top of us, and we made a mistake by pushing in too far. So on windy days, on bright sunny days, I don't move very far. I'll call light, move short. And the reason why I do that is because of what happened is I wanted to set up on the edge where basically I wanted to set up in one basically trench, kind of, because it was kind of like not a bowl, but on the other side was the bowl. There was a bowl. And so I wanted to be almost like one drainage over of this bowl. So anything that was down there would come out. And Matt didn't want to. And I was good with that. Matt's a very effective coyote caller and hunter. And so we make a move over, and we are setting our gear down, and I look up, and there's a coyote standing right there. And I was like, you've got to be, I was like, dog. He's right there. And wouldn't you know it, neither of us got a shot off. I was fumbling around because, when you're walking, you need to lower the power of your optic because if something does pop up, it's just stupid little mistakes like that can ruin a good hunt. But when you are hunting high winds and heat, short calling sets, shorter distances walked is how I like to run it. I'd prefer to be hunting in 20-degree weather, 10-degree weather. It's always just better. The coyotes are moving a little bit better, I think, throughout the entire day. Middays from like 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock have always been tough with us. So the set we are going to now call the spot where you and I missed one. That spot's been awful for us, but we've called a coyote in every time we sit there, and we always miss it. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe we just need to practice a little bit more, and that could definitely be it. But no, predator control is vital. It's crucial to what we do. And I see in years that I'm able to harvest, 4 to 5 coyotes a year, with the years after I do that, I always see better deer development. Always. It's been that way on this property more than any, more beneficial because they're so plentiful. The predators are so plentiful. So if you have an opportunity to do a little predator control on your property, I encourage you to do it. And just remember, in the mornings, like start light, and then, man, crank it up, especially if those temperatures are low. Don't be afraid to really let that call ring out, and just sit, just wait. And the wind picks up and it's getting hotter. And especially this time of the year, use a coyote locator call to find them. And then don't be afraid to mess around with your calls, because we stuck primarily to predator calls, so the squealing rabbits and the dying hares and stuff like that, when I really do believe if we would have made a transition over to more of a kind of a coyote female howl or a challenge call, I think it would have been a little bit better. But you just know your seasons, know what they're doing that season, because coyotes are driven by their stomach and their need to reproduce. I mean, that's what they're out there every day living, making sure no one's encroaching on their territory, their women, or their food. So always keep that in mind, and you'll be able to find coyotes, and you'll be a little bit more productive, and your deer populations will increase, and we'll have a little bit better success out there. But as always, guys, keep those muzzles pointed in a safe direction, and always be on the hunt.